r/AskReddit by Robotainment. What do you think is the single greatest photograph in history? The photo of Bruce McCandless floating and tethered in space. www.nasa.gov link. www.nasa.gov link. Every time he tried to get into the shuttle feed pull away. Op, you the real MVP here. I see you linking to the pictures these other lazy commenters mention, but don't bother linking for us to reference. Silver, I appreciate it. Edit 2, a second silver medal? I feel really accomplished now. Maybe it's true what people say about millennials? I did nothing, got a reward, and it feels great. Edit 3, and now gold. If you ask you/excellent comment you will learn I don't use the features of Reddit enough to warrant this. Thea totally right too. Can I donate this to them? Gonna have to quit soon. Gotta get some rest before an early shift tomorrow, but I will be back at it. Prepare to meet thy god. I point red pointed link. A bomb disposal expert walks to defuse a potential explosive device in Northern Ireland 1970. I've never seen this picture before, but it's hauntingly beautiful. Did the man survive? The first Hubble Deep Field Space Telescope.org link. Context for anyone who doesn't know what the deep field is. Back in the day, NASA asked, hey, what do you reckon is out there where there's no stars? So to answer this, they pointed the Hubble telescope at a spot in the night sky where nothing was visible. No stars, no galaxies, no nothing. To our understanding on that day, there was nothing there. Maybe one or two galaxies would shine dimly in the distance, with light so faint from so far away that we couldn't pick it up with conventional imagery, but instead of Hubble giving us an image of darkness and emptiness, which is ostensibly what most people though was out there before this image, it beamed back that is what is all around us. Pick a tiny speck of the night sky between any two stars, and zoom in far enough, and this is what you see. Galaxies, thousands of them, stretching off into infinity. Every speck of light in that image is a new galaxy, comprising millions to billion of stars, and when Hubble first looked there, we thought it was empty. This isn't the night sky. This is past the stars. This is in between, beside, and behind every single star in the sky. Galaxies stretching off into infinity, innumerable to count. Close your thumb and forefinger into a circle, so there's a tiny gap you can look through. Now hold your arm out to the sky, and look through the gap. That picture would fit in that gap probably. I'm not a mathematician or an astronomer, but just go with me on this. Now move your hand back and forth across the sky, and remember that picture every single time your hand moves. That is what we discovered the day that image was made. More recently, NASA released the Ultra Deep Field, which is much the same thing. An image that is 1/10,000th of the sky. The following link is to that image, and is 60 megabytes, so be warned. If you're on mobile, zebu.oregon.edu link. That, times 10 million is what is around us. Pale blue dot, www.jpl.nasa.gov link. Humble brag, my parents are in that picture. Big new religger after first 24 hours heart transplant operation. pbs.twin.com link. The patient outlived him. This is the one that came to mind for me. This has been my favorite photo for years. The look in his eyes, the scrub tech or resident in the corner, he or floor. I just love it. smeet.bigpixel.cn link. This is the single highest resolution picture that has ever been shot. Looked at this for hours, just searching for something new to discover. Edit. Love looking at the hilarious things you guys found. Hope you enjoyed as much as I do. Thanks for that. My vote would go to the Burning Monk, rarehistoricalphitus.com link. In the same respect as craziness happening before people's eyes, I'd like to submit this photo a smart photographer managed to take of the crowd watching as a South Tower collapsed on 9/11. I.imga.com link. The Last Jew in Vinitsa, 1941, n.wikipedia.org link. Imagine what had already been through, just for it all to end like that. His face is what got me. It's so gaunt. He was barely surviving as it was, and a pit filled with bodies is the last thing he ever sees. It breaks my heart. This photo came to mind as well. World War II is such a bottomless well of history. For me it's this. Upload.wikimedia.org link picture of a nuclear blast a fraction of a second after it detonated by Harold Eugene Edgerton. Edit. Got time frame wrong. Is there a size reference for how big this is? German soldiers react to footage of concentration camps. Slate.com link. You can read more here. Slate.com link. The Allies' policy of denazification included a form of rehabilitation, where German soldiers were forced to watch a film about a concentration camp. Turning the camera from the footage onto the audience, you need only look at their faces to feel their grief and shame. I see it as a testament to our humanity, and that even those who have done the most heinous things don't have to be unreachable. For me, it's a hopeful picture that we can be better. That said, the forced confrontation is crucial. If they weren't made to face the horrors that they'd been a part of, any other steps that might have been taken wouldn't have mattered. Saturn. Photojournal.jpl.nasa.gov link. The Earth is visible too. The bright spot on the left. Fat sis. This is the modern equivalent of the pale blue dot. Made me realize how dirty my computer is. I had to wipe the screen to see which one was actually the dot. Ed say that tank man. N.M. Wikipedia.org link is one of the most iconic. Here is a different angle from a moment or two before the iconic photo most people are familiar with. Tank man is in the top left. I.M.G.com link. Full picture. N.M. Wikipedia.org link taken moments before the more widely known version shows that there's a whole row of tanks heading towards him, not just the 4. The man is in the bottom left corner. It's 2 photographs, but together they tell a story. Here, 4.bp.blogspot.com link is Joseph Goebbels at the 1933 League of Nations. Here, 4.bp.blogspot.com link. He is a few minutes later, after finding out the photographer was Jewish. Edit. The photographer was Alfred Eisenstadt, who also took the famous VJ Day in Times Square picture. He lived until 1995 and was still working in his 90s. General Nguyen shooting a Viet Cong prisoner. Upload.wikimedia.org link not only for its shocking portrayal of the harshness of war, but also for teaching us a lesson in learning the context behind the photo. The prisoner was caught cutting the throats of a South Vietnamese officer and his family, who were close friends of General Nguyen, and the general shot him in vengeance. Eddie Adams, the photographer, even said photos are only half-truths, and that they don't always explain the events that led to the moment. Adams would regret taking the Pulitzer Prize-winning photo, especially after the general received hate messages from those incensed at the photo's content. I've never heard the story behind the picture. Thanks for sharing that. Upload.wikimedia.org link. NSFL. A mother and father having to sell their butcher children during 1920s Russia. First time a photograph shook me. The Great Famine in China from 1959 to 1961 killed almost 45 million people. Survival cannibalism was practiced there as well. There is a word in Chinese, which I can't remember, that loosely means to trade dead children between families, so that parents don't commit the sin of eating their own kids. Hell on earth. Edit. It's a Chinese phrase, not a word, but I'm at a loss to remember what it is. Apologies. Edit 2. Here's r/ibleach. www.reddit.com link or head to Shorpy. www.shorpy.com link. One of my favorite historical photo blogs, if you need uplifting, but still want to browse historical photos. If the wife's not medically dead, she certainly is in every other sense of the word. Pillars of Creation. Time.com link. Edit. U/169 painted an awesome one. www.deviantart.com link. Nagasaki from ground level. I.red. link. Edit. Well, this blew up, no pun intended. Edit to shiny thanks. This D-Day photo. I.mg.com link is pretty unbelievable. It doesn't feel like a world in which something so epic could take place exists any longer. The one of the soldiers POV getting off the boat comes to mind too. The vulture and the little girl. S4.thinkpic.com link gets me every time. If you ever get a chance to read the story behind this photograph, you should. Heartbreaking. One of the most gut-wrenching I have seen. Also this one. M.mg.com link. When Belgian King Leopold II ruled the Congo, he killed 10 million people and did things like cut off their hands, feet, and genitals. Here's a picture of a father looking at the hand and foot of his 5-year-old daughter for failing to meet a rubber quota. 4.bp.blogspot.com link. To elaborate on this a bit more, this is all he had left of his daughter. She was killed and allegedly cannibalized by the members of the Belgian militia. More info that I didn't know about can be found here. Rarehistoricalfetus.com link. This photograph of presumably the last Atlas lion. www.google.com link. And the photo of the last male northern white rhino with his keeper weeping. Update. Thanks, u/Silvertangudsage for adding the link and u/Scatmanbonite and u/Rabond86 for corrections added above in ITIL. Unitedcuts.wordpress.com link. And the only reason they got it was because the one guy was getting a shoe shine, so they were pretty much motionless for a while. It's interesting how you can become famous completely unexpectedly, and in this case, presumably even unknown to you yourself. This guy probably got his shoes done, paid, and went about his day, and he had no idea that people decades later would be seeing it happen, and that it would be one of the world's most significant images. Here's a much larger photo and not mirrored. Upload.wikimedia.org link. I ain't lying when I say that I have yet to see a photograph that can top this one. Imgur.com link. I thought that was going to be a link to this pic, which I find absolutely amazing. Photographer just made it back into the vehicle and didn't get mauled/eaten. Static.boredpanda.com link. Surprised nobody has suggested the blue marble yet. It's NASA's most popular image in the entire archive and is credited with helping to kick off the environmental movement. N.Wikipedia.org link. Here's a great article about it. www.outsideonline.com link. Edit. You can join the crew at the exact moment they took this picture at Apollo17.org link. Non-mobile only. This website lets you re-experience the entire mission in real time. The photo of an atom. QZ.com link was pretty incredible. Big J. McNeely, Los Angeles Olympic Auditorium, 1951. iPointimgur.com link by Bob Willoughby. Edit. Thanks for the silver. More info. It doesn't seem that the name of the song was documented while this photo was taken, but his audience reacted this way commonly during his performances. In his LA Times obituary, www.latimescom.cdn.amproject.org link, they quote a 1952 review of his concert that he turned the event into a veritable hepcut jive orgy when he came off the stage into the audience. In 2009, John Willoughby, the photographer, said of McNeely, www.jazzwax.com link, Big J stood in the middle of what normally would be the fight ring, playing his heart out, and the crowd was exploding around him. He created some sort of resonance with the audience. In some weird way, he seemed to be playing them. Find yourself a man that looks at you like that dude looks at that other dude. A lot of the best ones have already been linked here, so I want to share one of my favorites. This photo of a priest during the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution. iPointimgur.com link. The contrast between the worn riot shield in one of his hands and the cross in the other, along with his religious garb against his respirator, is something I found incredibly powerful. A friend of mine likened him to a real-life paladin. There's something so battle-hardened about the look in his eyes. Respirator. I'm glad you pointed that out. They looked like headphones. For me, is this one the most beautiful suicide? Red. Link. Probably NSFW. She was gelatinized when she hit the car and she fell apart when they tried to remove her. Probably already somewhere in here, but East German soldier defecting to West by jumping over the Berlin Wall when it was only barbed wire. iPointimgur.com link. This happened on the third day of its construction and the picture became a symbol for the Cold War. Whole story can be found here. N.Wikipedia.org link. I have a soft spot for this picture. fpc.dos.state.fl.us link of an American Civil War veteran posing with a military jet. It really shows the incredibly progress made in the space of a lifetime. How one man could go from a battlefield on which muskets and cannon won the day to a world of rockets, missiles and supersonic aircraft. And there he is touching. Media2.fdncms.com link. A jet. American Civil War veteran posing with a military jet. Unfortunately that man may have been lying. He states he was born in 1848, though records show he may have been born in 1859 to 1860 and therefore not actually a veteran. The last verifiable vet died in 1956 though, so this photo was still very much possible. Such a great post, and has been an introduction to so many awesome pictures and stories. I really like this one picture where workers in New York, I think, are doing construction on a skyscraper and they're all sitting on this giant steel beam that's just hanging hundreds of feet in the air. It's called Lunch Atop a Skyscraper. N.M Wikipedia.org link. Edit. Anyone who is freaked out by this picture, or who likes it, I think you should check out James Kingston on YouTube. Watch someone climb with bare hands and no tethers to the highest heights. It's unbelievable. Almost every lifetime journeyman iron worker I know has this picture on their home somewhere. This Imga.com link picture of two engineers who hug each other knowing that they're going to die. NASA's new ultra-high-res photo of this galaxy, Hubble's.org link. Holy shit, the full resolution download is 1.6 gigs for an image. That's impressive. I don't know if someone has posted this already, but the picture that changed the face of the AIDS, Changing Thufasea Fades.wordpress.com link is one real deal. The look the father has on his face. His world changed for the worse that day. This is so sad. A lot of these pictures are very grand in their scale or impact of what was going on in the photo. This is just one family, but it is this photo that brings me so much pain. I hate seeing that face. No matter who it is, whenever I see that face I can't do anything but feel pain. I feel so sorry for them. The photo of the child that was trapped under the debris of her house for 3 days before dying has to be up there. N.M Wikipedia.org link. I forgot about this one. The first time I saw it, I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. So haunting. God damn those eyes. I actually had gone blind at this point and was in agony, but no one could get her out. Many others from my top choices have already been said, but I haven't seen the Mars sunset Imga.com link here yet, which never fails to blow my mind. Edit. AI my first Reddit silver. Thank you. Here are some more pictures from Mars, if you guys are interested. Earth and Moon seen from a high-powered telescope orbiting Mars. Imga.com link. NASA page explaining further. www.nasa.gov link. Earth from surface of Mars. Imga.com link. NASA page explaining further. Climate.nasa.gov link. Photo 51. Upload.wikimedia.org link. The first photo showing the structure of DNA. Image taken by Rosalind Franklin in 1952. A lot of the photos being posted are quite sad, but this one makes me happy. www.museum.org link. Edit. Wow. Thanks for my first and second gold, guys. Hope you have a happy day. I couldn't name a single one, but here's a phenomenal photograph that I'm not sure if it has been mentioned yet. N.M Wikipedia.org link. I love this photo because it was used by both Germans and British, but presented to in different contexts. Germans showed off the image as proof of the bombing effectiveness, but the British saw a metaphor of their own sturdiness, stiff upper lip and all that. Probably not the greatest, but I'd like to share Fernando Auti's kiss. I1.wp.com link. Fernando Auti was an Italian immunologist who passed away just a few days ago. This picture of him is extremely important because he's kissing a woman affected by HIV. He did this in 1991 in response to an article falsely claiming HIV could be transmitted by kissing, in a time when popular knowledge about HIV and AIDS was extremely vague. This I.Imga.com link one always seems to make me think. Really puts things in perspective. I'm not an emotional man, but I always get a little weepy with that one. Just incredible. Sirajavas Romeo and Juliet always get to me. www.news.com link. Edit. NSFW. It's a photo of two dead people. Sorry for not warning previously. I still think this photo of a plane crash happening is one of the best I have seen. FIRAFlanding.com link. For those wondering, the pilot broke his legs but survived. M.Imga.com link. Not sure if that's how to link or not. One of my fav pics of WWII with a great story behind it. He was firing on enemy forces in Rabaul Harbor and seen a marine pilot get shot down. So, while under enemy fire, he stripped naked and jumped in to rescue the marine. After he got the marine to safety, he jumped straight back on his gun, naked, and continued firing. He wasn't able to put clothes back on until they left the area. He was a hero, doing hero work, naked. Now that's vintage big dick energy. I like this one. Upload.wikimedia.org link.Yugoslav parties and defying Nazis before hanging. France Lansing, ghost trees, has to be the wildest photo I have seen. I have had it ingrained in my head since the first time I saw it. It looks like a painting. www.nhm.ac.uk link, edit, added different link, not sure if that helps. This is also a really good video of Franz explaining the process and showing the pictures before and after this moment. Timing really is everything. www.youtube.com link. Are you telling me that's not a painting? Earthrise, www.nasa.gov link. I had to look up where it was taken. But this, upload.wikimedia.org link picture at the 5th Solvay conference. It blows my mind that all of these people were alive at the same time. This photo, www.yadvasham.org link NSFW, is one of the only known photos in existence that shows the activities inside Auschwitz surrounding the mass execution of its prisoners. Photography in the camp was generally forbidden, even by the SS, but this was taken in secret by the Sonderkommando, a group of around 100 prisoners inside the camp who were selected by the SS to do all the dirty work, including disposing of and burning the bodies as they are in this photo. The Sonderkommando smuggled in a camera and took the picture from the doorway of a nearby gas chamber. They then managed to smuggle the film out of the camp in a tube of toothpaste. For me, it is one of the most horrifying photos in existence and just shows what humans are capable of at their worst. Mirror, with more photos. Imgur.com link. Thanks for asking this question and taking me on a journey through Edit, Time magazine's Bored Pandas collection of 100 greatest photos of all time. So much horror, so much pain, such amazing work on the part of so many photojournalists. I was blown away so many times scrolling down this list. It's tempting to choose one of those, but I'm going to put in a plug for this positive one. Nuti Noel, Malik Sadaib, 1963, found at #39 on their list. Edit, 100 photos. Time.com link. www.boredpanda.com link. The West is used to pictures of Africa as a continent of famine and trouble. This is a departure from that. Audra Thomas, Nebraska tornado. Imgur.com link, 1989. This photo. Publicmedia.ccdn.com link. Just an empty bed and a chair beside it. On the bed is a pillow with some dark stains. It's the bed Lincoln died in across the street from Ford's Theater. The photo was taken right after the president's body was removed. The pillow is stained red with the blood that seeped out of his head wound all night long. It's just soaked. War is hell. Sites.su.edu link. It's not only a great bit of photojournalism, as it really captured a major theme of the Vietnam War in one image, but it's also just a simply amazing portrait. This man fulfilling his promise to wear a green dress to his friend's funeral. External preview.red.it link. Him teary and giggling at the same time. I imagine his friend watching this from the other side and saying, "Fuck, man. I didn't think you'd really do it. Oh my goodness. This is unbelievably moving. What a good friend and person." Tragedy by the Sea. Bob 520.wordpress.com link. Always makes me cry. Young couple placed 19-month-old baby at the edge of the waves. Wave came and drew the child out to sea. If this were nowadays, the couple would likely be ridiculed to no end for placing such a young child so close to the surf and then ultimately walk too far away. Let's not forget that those are only the moments of our history that happened after the invention of camera. Imagine all those we missed. George W. Bush being told about 9/11. Imgur.com link will always be iconic. 6 comments. It may seem stupid, but I think it speaks to his character that he decided to stay and finish reading to the children he was with. Yes, it was a photo op. Yes, it was a very important time, but the conscientiousness and consideration it took for him to keep calm and keep the world sane for these kids a while longer shows how important the little things can be sometimes. It's ridiculous how young he looks here. This one makes my heart race every time. External preview point red point at link a pickup truck flees from the pyroclastic flow spewing from the Mount Point Pinatubo volcano in the Philippines. I found this to be one of the most haunting photos I've ever seen. The look in the elephant's eyes is beyond agony. www.reddit.com link, edit, thank you/Agent Daedalus, among others, for pointing out that parts of the photo seem to be photoshopped, so please be aware. I still want to leave it up, because it still stands as a powerful and terrible image. If it's any consolation, the eye is photoshopped. Elephants do not have eyes that large. Here's a still from a picture right before the shot. I point at him.com link. I've never seen an animal with that sort of luck before. I think this photo series of a rock climber in the 2017 total solar eclipse is pretty awesome. Can you imagine the amount of planning that went into this shot? Andrewstada.com link. 100-yard stare is up there. Wikipedia.org link. Daredevils play tennis in sky. avatarblog.files.wordpress.com link. Looks so unbelievable that it seems photoshopped, but it isn't, which makes it more badass. I hope they brought some extra balls. I'm sure there are better ones, but this one has always had a soft spot for me. cdn.sessions.com link shows a surgeon who performed a heart surgery which lasted 23 hours. The patient was borderline impossible to save. From the article. Here, we see Dr. Big New Religa keeping watch on the vital signs of a patient after a 23-hour heart surgery he conducted. In the lower right corner, you can see one of his colleagues who helped him with the surgery fallen asleep. Dr. Religa was a pioneer of heart transplantation in Poland, and even though the surgery was considered borderline impossible at the time, he took the chance, and the operation was entirely successful. Today, even though Dr. Religa's heart has stopped beating, the one of his patient is still running. Terror of War. www.google.com link. I would have to say the terror of war NSFW, which really set into perspectives how horrid and awful war is. This is also, I believe, the most emotional picture I have seen come out of the Vietnam War. Napalm Girl's story. www.google.com link. Also wanted to add the photos that impact me the most, since I did not grow up during the Vietnam War, are the photos from 9/11. I believe these are some of the greatest photos in history, because it was at that moment we knew our world had changed forever. Firefighters raise American flag at Ground Zero plus their story. www.christianparley.com link. That was one of the very last and most devastating pictures to come out of Vietnam, and for many Americans was the last straw that finally flipped them against the war. The other one was General Lone summarily executing the captured Viet Cong. Probably the happy Chinese man eating rice from the 1900s. He just looks so happy. www.reddit.com link. Surprised to not already see a harvest of death. www.metmuseum.org link listed here. One of the first Civil War photos taken. One of the first war photos ever taken. And the first widely circulated one. This photo was the first time most people with the privilege of not being on the battlefield got a glimpse of what it was like. Edit. Spelling. Maleficent.vixen.files.wordpress.com link. I'm an absolute sucker for photos of people forgetting the world and just enjoying the moment. It may not be the single greatest photograph in history, but it brings me an incredible amount of happiness to look at it. It's just a beautiful snapshot of humans being humans. A Monk and His Brother by Roger Stonehouse. www.evelvindecent.com link. Roger Stonehouse missed an opportunity by not naming the same monk and a punk. This is the image that haunts me. Lining up with your children to be shot. Knowing what is about to happen with nothing you can do to stop it, but watch as the line gets shorter. www.google.com link. But it reminds me to be a better person. To be grateful of what I have. For those gone before us. To do the right thing when I can, and be kind. Jesus. The one at the end is pregnant. And many are holding toddlers and babies. I've never seen that photo before. That's one of the most horrifying WWII images I've ever seen. Just from skimming the first few photos in this thread, I've noticed a lot of sad photos vying for the greatest, so I thought I'd throw this one in. Easy company, band of brothers having a well-earned rest after capturing the Eagle's Nest, Hitler's private residence. m.img.com link. Edit. Thank you for the silver. My first Reddit silver. The Wright brothers airplane taking off. Wikipedia.org link. I love how iconic this moment is, and all of the space related photos in this thread that show how far we came in such short time. But my favorite mind-blowing fact is the time between the first flight and man walking on the moon was shorter than the time between the invention of the motorcycle and the first motorcycle backflip. Bratislava, 1968. img.com link. Edit. Wrong city. Jews being liberated from a death train in April 1945 being sent to Bergen-Belsen. The woman staring at the camera sobbing as she runs with her daughter, and the woman who is grinning for her life being saved, makes it an emotional picture. Commons.wikimedia.org link. The whipping scars on the back of the fugitive slave named Gordon. Upload.wikimedia.org link. Edit. For those interested in this man, Gordon. N.wikipedia.org link. Gordon, or Whipped Peter, was an enslaved African American who escaped from a Louisiana plantation in March 1863, gaining freedom when he reached the Union camp near Baton Rouge. He became known as the subject of photographs documenting the extensive scarring of his back from whippings received in slavery. Abolitionists distributed these carte de visite photographs of Gordon throughout the United States and internationally to show the abuses of slavery. In July 1863, these images appeared in an article about Gordon published in Harper's Weekly, the most widely read journal during the Civil War. The pictures of Gordon's scourged back provided Northerners with visual evidence of brutal treatment of slaves and inspired many free blacks to enlist in the Union Army. Gordon joined the United States Colored Troops soon after their founding and served as a soldier in the war. Student leader Lester Shum arrested in HK protests. img.com link. I saved this one a while back on Reddit, just because of the contrast to this guy's look compared to the actions around him. Lots of beautiful and haunting stuff in here. How about a more recent, obscure one? Girl watching her grandfather cry at a Veterans Day celebration. www.google.com link. This photo really jumped out at me the first time I saw it. The look on her face says it all. She just learned that the world is a whole lot bigger than she thought it was. Her eyes are full of sorrow, and she looks like she's brimming with questions. Not sure if Op and that link took it or not, but it's very nice. Hannah Stoley, earliest born person ever photographed. She was 10 when Mozart was born. She lived the French Revolution and the creation of the US. Just think about it. I.img.com link. This image of a shell-shocked soldier. www.google.com.vn link. That would be a beeping. www.iflshans.com link. Edit. Thanks for the 2 silvers. For the IFLS haters, here is an old Reddit post. www.reddit.com link. This one has messed me up for a very long time. Insat soldiers executing Jews in a field in Ukraine 1942. Upload.wikimedia.org link. It's disturbing, in part because of the unceremonious nature. For them I'm just another one out of hundreds they have to plug. For me it's everything. No time to say goodbye, hold a loved one, or take one last look. It's easy to deny human rights if you can be selective about who you consider human. Even with a lynching, guillotine or electric chair you might have a small crowd, a custom last meal and time/place of your execution. Maybe they'll throw a bag over your head, so you aren't shamed in death. Recognition, in some small way, of your inherent value. Without these, in my opinion an execution would just be murder. n.mwikipedia.org link. This thread is fantastic. Great feedback. Quick directional changes. Minimal dickishness. Keep convo cool. These. Mashable.com link. Not posting a photo, just here to say this is my favorite AskReddit thread in months. So much joy, sorrow, and astonishment in 100 images. Australian soldier being beheaded by a Japanese soldier. Photo was found by an American soldier on a dead Japanese soldier. www.today.com link. Nothing as inspiring as some of these other comments, but this imgur.com link dunk photo of Larry Nance always does something for me. This photo of Jackie Kennedy climbing the back of the limousine after JFK was assassinated. Kielarowski.files.wordpress.com link. This one has always been really incredible to me because it's a pretty perfect snapshot of an insanely significant moment in history. Ham the chimp after returning from space. www.archives.gov link. Malcolm X peeks out his window with a rifle amidst death threats. imgur.com link. This is the first one that came to mind for me. Monkey selfie. www.telegraph.co.uk link. Also the story after the picture was taken is interesting. For me JFK Jr. Saluting. www.up.com link. Look at this photograph. I point at img.com link. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. The Dust Lady of 9/11. www.thelily.com link. I'm surprised no one has shared this photo yet. m.imgur.com link. This is the Thank God Ledge on Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. This particular picture is from when Alex Honnold free soloed climbed the entire wall with no ropes or protection half dome. This picture of Emmett Till's mother. www.washingtonpost.com link. Emmett was murdered at 14 and gruesomely mauled just for saying something to a white woman. His mother decided to have an open casket funeral so everyone could see what had happened. His death in 1955 was one of the major sparks of the civil rights movement. The woman who accused him admitted that it was all a lie. www.google.com link. I don't know if this was posted but rarehistoricalphatus.com link. The story is so heartbreaking. This is so hard, bordering impossible, to answer because it's hard to compare different genre of photography, from landscape, to animal, to street photography. It's like asking which is your favorite movie. Sure, some can answer that, but a better question would be to ask concerning a specific category. Having said that, this is a recent favorite of mine. Palestinian father bathing his daughter and niece in their destroyed home. External preview. Red.it link. Soviet soldiers overthrowing the Nazis by placing a Soviet flag on top of the Reichstag in Berlin came to my mind. imgur.com link. Neil Armstrong on the moon, 100 photos. Time.com link shows one of humanity's greatest achievements. Edit. Neil Armstrong took the photo. Buzz Aldrin is pictured. That's actually Buzz Aldrin in the picture, but you can see Neil in the reflection of Buzz's helmet. When I wanna see incredible photos, I like going here. www.worldpressphoto.org link. It's a collection of photo of the year by World Press Photo and has some absolutely incredible images. Like and subscribe for good luck, you handsome gentlemen.